together for Dave, and at the very end they'll do his collection for us. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dave.
Glad to see nobody's on the floor yet. Fainted. Okay, right. Richard, bless him, silent killers, and then we did silent killers in Sussex about a horse case. I don't know what's that. That was.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all. I think we're on to that now. Okay. This is Rascal. A couple of days before the poor lad was done, and this was a farm. Actually, no, it was stables owned by a guy who was a local councillor, quite high up, and he was aware of what Richard was doing with me, and they also followed David Icke quite a lot, this couple. And he leased some of his land for a riding school, where Rascal on the 22nd of October 10 was found lying in the field. Okay. So this is before we got there, which is right. So the only marks in the field was a bit of poo staining at the back end, where it had some sort of interference with the rectal area, and its neck made as the main wound. There were two other horses in the field, and when they got there, they were sort of very subdued in the far distance. And then there was another horse that belonged to somebody else. To the right here, there were some old sheds, and a corrugated door and such, and this horse in there had gone berserk, and he kicked the stable, trying to get out and wreck the place. So obviously they were very heavily spooked. So the horses knew something was happening, and that's the state they were in. Okay, so I think it was down here where the horse was housed, and I put my APFU toolbox in the spot where Rascal was lying, and that was the back end of there, where it stained a bit from poo, etc. There was no blood or drag marks or thrashing of the feet marks, nothing. Okay. So it had this very deep wound all around the neck area, left ear gone, and a bit of the jaw. Okay. This is another view from the other angle. There's a bit of blood there, it's just pool that wasn't there until they moved the carcass. And that's what happens. The tissues retain a bit of the blood, but not much. Okay. Let's close up to the jaw area. Nostril cleaned out. They very rarely touch teeth, so occasionally they'll have teeth missing. And we come to a cow in Argentina shortly, where teeth were dropping out. And on his business end, there was a gelding, so he had no testicles to remove, but there was some outer skin removed in two places around the sheath. You can see there an edge. Okay. Another view. Okay. And then this was his back end. I have a nail measuring stick, which Richard made some joke about it. So the sheep is about 4 or 5 inches, maybe 6 inches. A cow can be deep as 14 inches. So I got a piece of wood and marked it 4 inches. So anyway, there you go. Now also it had its chestnuts removed again. It's the third horse now with new chestnuts removed. So why on earth were they doing that? Is it something to do with the past and origins of horses? You know, this species is developed. It's a complete mystery because they have no function, you know, for the horse anyway. So we're told. So that's the mystery. Okay. Now then, talking of horses, this is a continuation of another letter I got from this fellow called Peter, representing the farmer, who had the 2 sheep taken by people purported to be the mafia, we don't know. But the farmer, we went to some meeting where farmers would gather and have a chat. And this particular farmer, of course, is retired, so he said, you can do what you like with the information to Peter, which he passed the information to me. So they had 3 horses in the field, and next morning he found one dead with its tongue and eyes and rectum, penis missing, neatly removed, no blood, one horse missing, and the other was very scared and nervous. The dead horse made an impression in the ground as if dropped from a great height, like that cow I showed you in the Wilton House. He rang the vet, and he apparently got a visit from 2 people, a man and a woman from the Ministry of Agriculture. As he said, strange, he rang the vet who must have run the Ministry of Ag. So again, there's a clue that certain vets recognise the symptoms of what's happening and pass the job to these people whose job it is to remove carcasses and evidence. So they came in a lorry with a big dark brown van, probably Ford. There's no markings on the lorry except it's dark green colour. They winched the dead horse onto the lorry, and he said it was strange as they never even examined the dead horse in the field. So he didn't think they had much idea about horses. And the woman, it was a woman who was doing the talking to the farmer, or the horse owner, said, you receive compensation in the post, but they never do, and they never did, because that means there's a paper trail with the money that people can check. So that is another veiled promise that they're enabling, but to keep the farmer shut up. Anyway, they show small green plastic cars with math written them, just like the 2 guys that came to the farm before the sheep. And they told them if you attempted to make an episode about the horses public or talk about it, you can flash the next slide, thanks. They would find farming very difficult, whatever that meant. So they're alluding to the fact that they will review the farming subsidies that they get from the government and possibly the EU these days. And some farmers are surviving on the subsidies. So if they stop that, review it, they could be out of business, you lose the farm, lose the home even. So it's a big threat, that. It's very intimidating for them to say that. Apparently, most farmers who have had this sort of thing happen to them don't make a fuss, because if they do, they will be farming no longer. That's why not many farmers report to come forward about it. The woman from the Ministry of Agriculture also told them that they have exactly operatives in every department in the country, in health and safety positions and other positions in the councils, unknown to the councils who they are. So they have this hidden dual role to watch out for these animal cases to shift in or report back. When he asked about what happened to the horse and the missing one, the woman told him he didn't want to know. It was not coming here, but it was government business. So by now, the horse owner was getting very cross with this officious woman. So then going to write to Tony Blair, who was the Prime Minister at the time. And she says, without any hesitation, "That'll do no good whatsoever." So confident, you see, that the Prime Minister can't do anything. This is February 1999. So there we go. Okay. Now, this chap is called Tim Levy. He lives in a place called Crossway, which is a few miles east of Dorchester in Dorset. And he said, I came across a staghead. So, seen any of you? Did you have deer on your estate?
Sorry?
Do you have deer on your estate?
Oh, yeah, plenty.
Okay. Next one, please. These are his pictures. He took some video as well. Again, you've got the shaped pieces. Something happened there in the snout. No tongue, of course. Okay, center it. And this is the back view. And look at the way that's been cut, machined through. You know, soft tissue, hair, and into bone. I mean, what tool we've got to do that anyway? And that's what it was. Never saw the body of the animal, just the head. Okay. And now we've got the decapitated deer. This was in France. Okay. This another view of it. Right, okay. Now this young female deer, this was in Sussex. It's east of Horsham, so not that far from Gatwick Airport, but in the bit, quite a very countrified area. So I went there actually and interviewed the couple, and he took some superb pictures of this animal, brought it into his yard, put it in that jaw strip and so on. And again, a bit like the fox in a way, the whole vertebrae, though it's not the tail, it's the neck, stripped down to the bottom. I think that's something at the baptism area. Okay, now some everything through. Eye still there, but typical jaw job. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. And then Phil Hoyle, it's in the picture, spotted this on its back somewhere. There's a shallow hole just into this, from the outside fur to the skin, and that's obviously being cut with something there. And I'll show you some pictures on the sea with a bit of something. I've lost track of where this young cow was, but again, the wound in the area is similar to the horse's, eyes out and lips. Okay. And this is another view of it turned over. I don't think it's the same animal actually. I don't think it is. Okay. Now, I got these from a farmer in West Wales, a place called Plymouth. It's on the main coastal road down south towards Carmarthen. And he had a number of sheep done. I think 3 or 4. And then one of his prize rams. So he took some very nice pictures of the ram. And it's got obviously the jaw strip out. Very deep hole in the neck and the larynx and esophagus gone. Okay. That's on the side of the jaw. So I'll put the marrows on his print and clean the cuts off. Okay, and then there's the whole body. Now, he got it from the field, he scooped it up in one of these bucket things off his tractor. And note this hole here, in the close-up of it. He said that when I saw it, there was no blood whatsoever. And because he's tipped it up, his bucket thing, a bit of blood had gone out. And then where the business end of the ram, cleanly removed. Okay? And this is where, the reproductive organs of the ram were. That's why he's thumbnail there. This is a close-up of the hole. And if you note this sort of pear-shaped hole, that's 2 bits of rib, the gap in between the rib. And this shape, apart from the clean, sealed edges, comes up several times. So that there's consistency in the tooling. And this was a young lamb, a chap sent me from Geddes-Ward, which is in Snowdonia, a few years ago. And that cleaning of the tissue and the wool off skin, leaving the skin clean like this very neat hole, and obviously organs have been taken from there. And I went to the farm, and the farmer said it's a fox, he said. Another farmer said, oh, it's a fox, and I buried it. And I was prepared I took a spade a second time to dig it up and do a Linda Moulton Howe, but actually exhumed a cow, bless her. But he wouldn't tell me exactly where he buried it. And it might have been in too bad a state by then. So that was a waste of time. Anyway, okay. Now this is Charmy Down, this is near Bath. This was quite recent, I've got a date in, this is this year. Charmy Down, there we go. 12th of August this year. And this was in the media a bit. I think it's this farm here. And I rang the journalist, left messages to the desk and the guy's desk who wrote the report in the paper, and they never came back to me. And it's as though they don't want to engage with you. They've written the story, it's done with, and that's it. So next slide, this is the actual animal. And this is police detectives who appeal for information for cows farm, part of its face of total removed. And its tongue's out and that typical jaw strip. And this is 12th of August this year in Bath. Okay. I know it's a bit close, but that actually is a wood pigeon. Southampton, guy sent me, and you could say, oh, something else has killed a bird and pecked a hole, but I mean, that was quite deep, and that's the neck end, and it's foot here. And it was a park, public park in Southampton. Guy walking and found it, and took it home, took a picture. So, I think so birds are done, you know, decapitated in large numbers in the Orkneys and elsewhere. Now on to domestic animals. This is from Linda Milton Howe's website. It's a dog of some sort, like an Alsatian type dog. And it's been cut in half. There's a bit missing, and that's one cut line, another cut line. Okay, there's an intestine falling out there. Okay. And the next slide, that shows the opposite side is where you view of the cut. You see how neatly the coat is cut as well. It's clean as well. It's like a butcher's job, isn't it? Okay. Thanks very much. Now we're on to the pussycats. This cat is called Moses, and he's he's actually in New Zealand, a place called Timaru, I think, Timaru. Yeah, anyway, it's one of 70 cats gone this year, up to September this year, in this particular town of Timaru in New Zealand. So I'm a picture of probably disappeared. So a lot of cats go missing, as people do, you know, and never seen again. So that happens to sheep and everything. So okay, next one. This is a plot of a collection of a cluster of cat mutilations or loss around Belfast. And you notice you've got Newry there, where that horse was. There's a big cluster there. That's significant to me. Okay. This was in the paper again. This was and there's a thing called a thread running, the Croydon cat killer. And they keep appealing for one day we'll catch this cat killer. Some are just missing, some are decapitated, put in half, some are stabbed. So some of them might be sickos doing it, but some of them decapitation, usually back kit and so there's a lot around that area of London. Okay. Well, we're getting a knife as well. This is in Tameside, in the Ashton line in Manchester. And it's decapitated. Again, it was in a park in Duckingfield, and there was a big sort of stripping of hair here at the back end. And again, I contacted the journalists, following the local papers and the Manchester Evening News, and they would not respond because I'm quite prepared to have the original picture without being blotted out, pixelated out. Never got it, never replied to me. Okay, there's a radiograph, we put that in the paper. 6th of July 2016, Beaconsfield News, Tameside. You see some missing, the tail's missing, or the head is. Okay. And this is from the States. The cat is cut in half, and there's a section missing completely. You know, they don't join up and take the chunk out. A bit like that sheep you saw in Scotland. And this is a cat cut in half in a place called San Antonio, which is near White Sands missile training in Arizona.
San Antonio's Texas, isn't it? I don't know. There might be another one in.
It might be Texas, San Antonio. Yeah, okay, that's two other ranges. See, cleanly cut, no blood. Another view, I think, on you. Yeah. Just checking. This is quite a recent decapitation of a cat. Yeah, it's in Oklahoma, January this year. Okay. Next to, there's two slides here. This poor cat is called Tippy, somewhere in the UK, and came in all the fright, and it's somehow been shaved. You could say some bloody sick guy with an electric shaver could have done it, but I don't think so. It's like they were going to do something to it. There's another picture. You can't prove that. Now we're on to the big cats. Now, I've always thought of all this animal species in the UK, there must be the effect on wild animals and game reserves in Africa, for example. You know, I can't believe they're untouched, but there's no evidence of that. And then this guy called Joe Fleury, who lives in Switzerland, who for a while now has been helping me. He does lots of searches on different programs all around the world and puts keywords in and shown all sorts of incidents. And he has a very interesting blog if anyone wants to go, and it's called Alpine Anonymous, where he puts links to all these stories. And it's the only bloke I ever know. He's fluent in French, German and Spanish, and has acted as an interpreter in the past, I think. Very clever chap. He actually writes verse and prose about the animal and human mutilations, puts it on his blog. Well, that's a first. So thanks to Joe Fleury, okay, next picture, he's found some lions decapitated and all the legs, feet cut off, and that to me is a telltale. It's the circumferential 360-degree cut around the outer fur and flesh down to bone. Doesn't look like it's been hacked off crudely. Just a sec. In South Africa, this was one of 3 lions found the same. And it's someplace called Tanzania. It might be Tanzania, but I think it's the way it's spelled, I'm not sure. Okay. There's another one in Africa, decapitated, and again you can see it through the feet run. There's another one, I think. Yep. This is one of 8 lions found, the same decapitation and limbs removed and cut there. So whether some cult is doing it, some silly thing, I mean, how you tackle a lion, and usually in groups, so if you've been doing the business with one, even if you poisoned it or shot it, you have to watch your back for the others around.
Yeah, that's really
So you're not an easy thing to do, and that seems to me there's circumferential strip there with the foot. Why would you bother to do that even if you can do it on a line in those sorts of conditions? So that's it, okay. Now we get a crocodile. We take on a crocodile. It's easy, isn't it? Fox can do that. Sorry, I keep abusing the poor fox. But it's been decapitated, but also had the feet cut off, just like the lions. And they said it was about 12 metres long, and very fast moving, you know, and water all near one of these. And if you manage to dart it and subdue it with poison or something else, sedate it, you know, crocs are never usually on their own, are they? You know, in the river, you know, to drag it out and do all this. Next one, anytime. So that's the decapitation. Again, the leg put in. Sorry about the quality, there was a low resolution. It's a shame not growing up more. I do my best to tidy them up with the cassette 3. Right. Now we're going to La Pampa in Argentina, which is a famous area for mutilations took here in 2002. A fellow called Christopher Shewan, who resided in Gloucestershire somewhere, but he married an Argentinian woman. He spends about 3 months of the year in Argentina, but he, for a while, joined the APFU after I did a talk at a press conference in 2000 when Graham Burswood said, David needs help. There's 800 people speaking to us from the knees and looking. Anyway, a few of them came up. Christopher Hume was one. He offered to pay for another farmer's advert. I'm not sure it was entirely his own money, but anyway, he sent a very good report. He was a sort of journalist. He was just a war zones to do stories, things like that. And this cow was found, and this was at one time, 1975, the biggest power station in Argentina supplies lots of power to the country. So often these animals and UFOs are seen around power stations, electricity substations, and places like that. Okay. Now the cow had a calf. You can see the reservoir there, and it was lodged awkwardly on some rocks. And there was about a 12-metre drop, a bit of a cliff. So it had moved away from its calf, which is very unusual in farms, but the jaw strip. It was very desiccated, and teeth were falling out. Well, normally the vet came, I'll tell you in a minute, and he said it would take up to 6 months for the carcass to rot enough for the gums to recede, the teeth to come out. In fact, they pulled out 3 more while they were there. In fact, I put 3 in the homestead actually. But it's very desiccated. Okay, next picture. What amazed him on the farm, that what of the outer skin hide had sort of fallen off the skin, but no sign of burning or a tool being used to scrape it off. And remember the lines you've just seen, what have we got here? 2 circumferential cuts around the leg. Okay. And this is the back end, an inner area, good 12 inches diameter, a bit of residual excretion here. And that's it. That's it, okay. Apart from the local mayor turning up, the farmer, the vet came with a police escort, 3 police officers and inspection from the local town, and no flies were on it. The farm dogs wouldn't go near it, none of the animals would go near it. And a big knife, he did a sort of T-shaped cut, peeled the skin back, and found it was virtually empty inside. Nothing. He found a bit of the stomach content, and obviously a bit of the poo left. And that was it. So at the time, all the internal organs had either come out through the mouth or through the hole in the anus. That's what we call it. Now, what animal could do that? No predation. I said the farm said when animals fall dead, there's coyotes, there's vultures, all sorts of predators immediately go into the carcass, not touched after 3 days. And it had this sulphury smell, which was noted, the same sulphury smell. And there we go. And that's the teat, some of the teats besides there. See if then it's beginning to smell a bit. Pretty warm temperature. So you can see
We're looking at that head. I can't see, I can't make that out. What is that?
well, that's the other, these are the teats.
Oh, that's the others, is it?
Yeah. It's the other bag and there's a teat. You can move there.
Oh, I got you, I got you.
Okay. So he wrote a very good blurb about it. Now, the Argentinian media, the press, the day I'll eat my hat the day will come if the Daily Mail or anyone else legal media paper produce reports like this. This is 2002 June, when there was this rash of mutilations, in particularly the Pampa region. And they actually got photographs, of some animals. And then there's another slide, Andrew, and a close-up of the horse, sorry, the cow, and they've actually identified, or the in Portuguese, the Spanish, is it? Brazil? Oh, Argentina, the areas. Just imagine that in the local paper in this country, describing, in view of what I'm saying, there's a carbon over the It's amazing. And the government were getting so much flack. There's an outfit called SENASA, I can't know what it stands for, but it's equivalent to our DEFRA, if you like. And they put a story out. It was all due to the red muzzled mouse. Now this mouse was proved by experts that it was not a carnivore, green stuff.
Now we know what happens to the cats.
Herbivores. That's a mouse. So it's not a fox in Argentina, it's a mouse. Dear, dear. You must think we're all idiots, mustn't you? Right, next, thank you. This is another cow in Argentina, usual thing, and the sorry, the ear, sorry. Okay, next one. Another one in Argentina, another thing. There's a definite pattern. Someone's dragging it with a rope and stick and poking it with a stick. Okay. And this one as well. They're all slightly different in appearance, but it's the same thing, the whole eye out and tongue and strip. So all around the world, this is happening. There's a similar pattern. There's a young, this is agricultural Argentina thing. Ear, eye, thank you. This is in Cordoba, which is part of Argentina, I think, the region, Poland, and passive hole in his chest. Slice things out right together, can't see the eye. I'm willing to bet that the genitals are removed, but that's the only image. Clean that up quite a bit in the original photograph. It's got his leg over the wire first, so that, how's it got there? Now then, the largest bird is a condor. In South America, head off. Okay, this one looks like some blood trickling down the top. But how do you catch a condor? What's the wingspan? 8 foot or something? 3 meters. 3 meters. 3 meters. And then, so just sit there behind, cut your head off.
What was that? Is that at the top of the mountain that was taken?
Bottles are here.
It's a rock. Well, it might be, I don't know, the region isn't too great. A lot of these pictures are down to Joe Fleury playing on his computer in Switzerland. Okay. Now this is in Uruguay.
Oh, okay.
Typical horse. Another picture. Now this is the opposite view. And this is I know about Avaz, his organisation, that often sign their petitions. But it shows you the ignorance of people. The secret to factory farming is no one's talking about. This is, please sign and share with this windy and Mulberries. January last year, I think. Torturing pregnant horses, this is a real thing that's horrific. Click to read more, add your name to stop it. And this is a horse that picked up on this website, but it was in Uruguay. And they totally put in the wrong label, implying that human beings were doing this. So, yeah. And they wanted you to sign a petition to get past the RSPCA to try and prevent it. It's where the fox. The trouble is that you've got passports in Uruguay. Now, how about tackle a bison? How many tons was that, do you think? And it's been hit by lightning, this particular one. This is the injury building from lightning, and I think that's possible. I'm not saying, this was a by a friend upstairs, but I'm just showing you the animal. There's a man showing next slide. An able call on a bison. So how do you tackle a bison? Weighs how many tons like that now?
Be a brave fox.
Brave fox. Perhaps it's 2 or 3. And also there's a bit of a cut in its tail here, so you need to a cow with it back end of. And there's some figures. was in America anyway. It's called Christ Valley, USA, August 2006. But it was a good shot that we saw. This is a cow. This was in a place called Cayton in Manitoba, Canada, August 2007. It's a close up of one of the teeth next time. And again, there's a rather shape here which is a bit similar to what we've seen before, around the teeth. Now I thought of an alpine farm scene just to change tack a bit, but not a lot, because Joe Fleury lives in the middle of Switzerland. And this poor farmer sheep, before it was a sheep decapitation. It's 2 years. Well, here, this is the first time I've seen this, where there's actually been a decapitation, but the sheep's head is still left by the body. Usually the head disappears and the body disappears.
The oil's taken out of it. The oil's out of that.
Yeah. This is a goat. The same as farming, not farming Hill, in Switzerland. This is the first one we had in 2016. And it's the same goat I showed you the side, with its ear cut, same as the horse in the size. And this was the second goat we had in August this year. Pretty close up to that area. It's either in the windpipe or soft. But anyway, it doesn't seem to be damaged. And then, well, a month later, the same farm, third goat attack, September this year. And again, it's a bit difficult to see in the picture was taken. I think it's the same. It was taken should be said, people not really good at taking pictures and also I think it's something or they use camera phones, and use some camera phone. I don't know if you hark back to the land of the snout off in Oxfordshire.
Yeah.
This is in Spain. Yeah, February 2016. So we got the snout's completely removed from the ball, I suppose.
Thank you.
So, it's a bit like the stag head, where it's cut. Onto seals now. A few seal pictures. That's a seal. It looks the same. Not me.
Oh, look at that.
Now, this is a guy who went on holiday with his family to Whitby, New Yorkshire. They just arrived there, a caravan up on with one of his sons. They walked down the beach and they came across this seal. They took some pictures, looked like quality, set maybe. And that's the head. It was still reasonably fresh. I had a lot of liaison with the vet in Norfolk, the East Leash veterinary practice, where Steve Baxter, his name, who did a lot of the examination of the seals in 2010 or 2009. He post-mortem 11 seals. And a lot of exchanges with Marlene and sent him images, including this one. And he reckoned this was scavenging done by crabs, birds, seabirds, etc. But the chap that found it said there was no, it had not been out of the water long, there was no evidence of seagulls pecking or seagull or crab on the animal. And they went back, and within a few hours decided to walk back, and it had been removed. Okay, there's another image. That's the back end of the night. There is a whole body of I was interested in that, and that looked like a name. And then there's an oval-shaped scoop here. That is a sort of conical shape where it indeed would be there's a bit of blood in it now. So if it had been in the water a long time, or the seagulls in the Gulf, that looks like fresh blood dripping out. You know, it's not been a tide in and then a tide out to wash that away. So before the tide came in, it had been removed by somebody. I showed that to Steve Bexton. He said, crabs, they look for a meal, they find a weak spot, get into the flesh, into the soft parts around the anal areas, whatever. And then they eat in a circular fashion, go around in a tube way. And that's my decision on these crabs. Yes, okay.
Well, like a sea fox.
Oh, sea fox. Now this was a dolphin on Newquay Beach in Cornwall. This last year. I've no more information about it, really. It's in January this year. To me, that looks like a very neat hole. It's not like a whale or some other predator taking a bite because it's not ragged. That's what it's I have a feeling that they're just looking the eyes out. So we're on to sea man. Sea lions is in Vancouver. Decapitated. There's something there. Not a very good picture. CBS News reported that's picture of the somebody's been poking it with a stick to turn it over. Sea lion. Now this seal is from Fraser River out in Vancouver. A fellow who decided he would try and help us. He got very keen and good reputation in the federal government. Sadly, something happened family-wise, and he suddenly got coffee, very frightened, and stopped helping. But before he did that, now the family got at him or somebody else, and it was decapitated. He monitored this carcass for 2-3 days, and went back to the same beach. And they found a number of seals previously in a similar state. Okay, and now, close up. I want to point out this flicker here. So you can close up with that. Okay. And that's very reminiscent of some of the other serial holes that we're looking at different animals this evening. It's not damaged the skin area. Blown this up and treated things, sharpened it up, etc. So that, as though they were going to do something, and they decided not to do it. To be deeper than that. And that's the picture, okay? And then, they've all got their name for. Okay, that's a stick from pushed it for his leg okay. This is a seal in Scotland. It's Firth of Tay off Monifeith, November 2010. This is a picture I got from the National Trust for blatantly involved with gathering information on this Russian seal mutilations in 2010. And I'm pretty certain that is a mutilation. And the way the skin is folded back, exposed to boobs. Sort of been lying around a while, I accept that, but what's happened to that one? This is an hour walk Nick, taken by somebody called Geddes-Ward, I think.
Confess.
Yeah, yes. This was July this year.
It was April, I think, possibly, but maybe I submitted it in July too.
Ah,
Yeah.
right, that's because I wrote it down.
Yeah.
So it was April.
Yeah.
So, I enlarged it. There's another view, I think. That's another view. Plus the sand being thrown onto it with a wash. Pretty clear to me, that's the name of it. It's probably not much designed. So there's nothing at the head end, was there?
No, it seems to be half buried in sand, actually.
Now, these corkscrew injuries were causing some consternation and alerted the press, and they got interested in this. But this wasn't in Norfolk or Scotland or Ireland, where this is on Sable Island, which is in Canada, on the Gulf of St. Lawrence. It's like a bit of an atoll. It's almost like a seal sanctuary. So it's miles from anywhere. And this cut line here, it starts under the jaw and goes round. So Steve Bexton's looked at a number of these ones from Norfolk, and he said something with extreme force has sheared its way around. So of course everyone's thinking props from boat propellers or stabilising motors on oil rigs, etc., etc. But the oil rigs off Norfolk coast were far out, far too deep, and weren't actually running, not for a long time, these recurring. So this is Sable Island, which is hundreds of miles away. This is on the Norfolk ones I got from the National Trust on Blakeney Point. There's a shot of it, it was turned over, I think it's another picture of it, on the opposite side. Get a neat line there. Another one with quite a deep sort of cut. You notice how the outer furs sort of sloughed off. Okay. Oh, this is the Daily Mail. Actually, quite good reports, well written, I thought. Good date on there. Yeah, August 2010. So there was a lot of media interest, partly because of the seals. There was a big tourist thing in Norfolk coast with Blakeney Point. People go out in boats or, to look at the seals on the banks, etc. So there's money interest, and the fact that it's a seal, it's like horses and cats and dogs. People are up in arms if seals are attacked. And there's another report. It's the same paper. Spared so far colony grey seals on the Faroe Islands. There's no reports of anything there, predation or ship propellers. And Steve Bexton and there's an outfit called SMRU, which is a Sea Mammal Research Unit based at Edinburgh University. And there's a little island worth of takeover in Island May. I did a count on that made on the slide. So at that point we're up to 75 sort of found. So there's, let's say, 50 in Norfolk, 18 St Andrews Bay, 34, 37. There's one in Offern in Ireland. So it's a puzzle. And they haven't found any shipping or boats had a problem where they've been sucked into the shrouded ducted propellers and azimuth props, motors, where it's shrouded, which it was implied that the seal gets sucked in or swims into it, and then it's trapped tightly, and then because it's rotating the prop, hence the spiraling. But they found no evidence, and no one's come forward and shipping the looked all the engines to the battle. Sharks, there's no shark. They like deep water off the coast of Norfolk, quite shallow. And Steve Bexton, and not in the you people think that they are done in shallow water almost on the shore, and some get washed in onto the beaches. In Orkney, Johnny Dodd reported in 92 there was 30 decapitated seals on 3 basic beaches. I'm not sure which part of the Orkneys. But what baffled the RSPCA vets there, the Scottish version, all the cuts were on the same position on the gap in the intervertebral joint. And though the heads were missing, there was no damage by a blade on the edge of the bone remaining at the cut position. So considering if someone went up with a machete or some other tool, and the seal had got thick blubber skin, you can't see the neck, you can't see the vertebrae. If you were running it on a real-time radiography setup, you might have a clue where it was to make the cut. But you're on a wild beach in Orkney. So how could anybody 30 times, at least 30 times, wheel some implement and hack your head off 30 seals in exactly the same place and not damage a single bone in the process? Okay. So this has caused a problem.
Is this one singular cut? Just
yes,
like
it's
firing around the body?
Unbroken.
Broken.
Sort of peeled out, which suggests some machinery. And, but I don't think it's machinery of this earth, but that's my opinion. Okay. Now this is one of the seals on the slab up at the Edinburgh Uni, waiting for post-mortem. You can see the cuts there. Okay. Right, thanks. Now then, on the Isle of May, we've got students there, we've got cameras set up, and Eureka, I think last year, we have the answer. And this is a male, mature seal attacking a seal pup and eating it. And they reckon that in the movie clip, the teeth, it was peeling the blubber and skin back of the pup, but there was a sort of suggestion of a spiral motion and it tearing the skin off. So now we have the answer, it's cannibalism. This is from the Seal Mammal Research Unit. The man in charge of that, his predecessor left and joined DEFRA, and he's a senior officer with DEFRA. And I think, after a while, they twigged what I was on about and other people, and I interviewed him with Richard Hull, went out on his programme and interviewed him at home. Within 48 hours, there was press releases given to the media in Norfolk and the television that it was cannibalism answer. So a lot of people, including the Harbour Master at Wells on Sea and our National Trust, put counter-arguments up saying, hang on, we don't quite go for this. So even though the SMRU were trying to push this cannibalism thing, and if it was a known sort of thing that seals do to pup seals, then they would have known about it from day one. You know, they weren't bothered about looking for propellers. Yeah. They'd say, it's the seals doing it themselves, wouldn't they? So there's no mention of this as a suggestion by anybody. So I'll take some pictures. They're not very good quality. And then carry on. Sorry. These were the two of the pictures I've loaded up together of one of the pup seals, they say, from Isle of May, that had been done by an adult male of making these cuts. And I don't buy it at all. I came across that and I thought, I've got to use that one. So, next one, thank you. So I searched this, I thought, why looking at sea mammals of pollutions, and the seal is at the top of the food chain, so you've got the polluted water coming down to the seal, sediment, you've got plankton, you've got animal plankton, creatures, invertebrates, fishes, even seabirds. They're all eating these, and the PCB concentrations, did quite a search and found that there were a lot of reports of the contaminants on the animals, on the seals particularly. They live for 30 years, seal, so it was a long lifespan to accumulate and store these dangerous chemicals through its eating and living in our planet, from runoff from farmers' fields, etc., power stations, chemical works. So there's lots of PCBs and other nasties. And where do they accumulate? In the blubber, in the liver, and the brain. And often those are the items are missing, and that's why I think they're looking at the blubber, they're stripping the blubber off to check for the contaminations. And we eat fish, so again it's just like the land animals looking for pollution effects, and we eat the land animals. The sea mammals are very important as well. Okay, changing tack. Oh, duck-billed platypus. I never thought there was any about. But this is in Australia. Well, it's a live one, obviously. In a place called Albury, which is about 230 kilometres from Sydney. Okay, this picture. This one's swimming. So there were 3 killed, 2 of which were decapitated. Okay, next picture. The head is missing, but the picture's not on there because there's no head there. But that's one of the bodies. So, what else is left? I mean, fox is good, there. Right, now, last week we got an elephant. This is in South African National Park. South African National Park, October this month. And they're now trying to say, by lightning, kill by lightning. So look at these, it's not even on its back or its head. It's because, the genitals were missing. So lightning doesn't do that, does it? There's one that's blue, I'm not sure if that's urine or blood, but very quickly we mentioned trucks and moved it. So the cover story is, he died by a lightning strike. Honestly, carry on. Thinking. On to the human bit now. Why it sounds missile range. You might, a lot of these first cases are on the internet, more about. Okay. In 1956, this occurred, sort of missile going on. And which one here? 2 military guys, a major and a sergeant called Pete Lillette, went down range, I'm not sure. There's San Antonio, by the way, where the cats were. In Sirocco, UFO crashes, UFO events. You've got Alamogordo there, Holland Air Force Base, Roswell about here. Well, we get lots of UFOs around the missile stadium. They're setting up Austin bombs and firing rockets. So I don't know where in the range they were looking for some debris from the rocket that had been fired and they wanted to pick bits up. Okay? And they're looking for bits like this. So they decided to separate to widen the news. So the major suddenly hears terrible screams from the sergeant. And he thought, God, he's been bitten by a snake or something like that. Okay, next one. Climbs up a dune to see a craft, a disc about 12 foot off the ground, trailing a flexible sort of cord around the sergeant's legs, and wishing into the craft and up in the air, screaming his head off. So the major witnessed all this and thought, my God. So he radioed the control and told them to send search parties out, protecting them and everyone. Probably a bit ahead of myself here. Anyway, they never found anything. I think 3 days, found his body 12 miles up range, naked, genitals off, rectum cord, eyes out, tongue, jaw strip, all the usual stuff. They charged him, the major originally, for murder because he thought he was responsible. But when they found the body and realised, of course, they dropped the charges. So that was okay. It's okay. This is 1994. Sorry, perhaps that's it. And this was a New Zealand doctor interviewed someone in America. Very worried because he came across this. all those usual things there, through holes in his chest, and I believe genitals were also gone. So, okay. I don't know about the Russian Dialektov Pass incident in the Euros in 1959. That was about it. Anyway, they got lost. We found the bodies ages ago, later. And there's two pictures. Okay. I reckon it's our friends upstairs. The eyes, the jaw, the body sort of sunk in. This is one of the ladies' members of the party. They're all young, fit people. Okay. And they're in a tent, and there's eyes again, jaw, and his chest cavity is sunk, so it suggests to me that the organs have been removed. But because of the Cold War, or Russia, that was the Soviet Union then, 59, very little information has come out. So I reckon they've had a hand in that. And the locals, indigenous people, I can't remember the name of the tribe, had one-time stories of strange lights and things happening in that area. And I think that they're in the tent, the rips in the tent, they've tried to escape, they got separated, some perished with the conditions of the cold, and some found these funny injuries. Okay? So to me, that's one of the earliest ones. Now in Laos and Vietnam, B-52 bombing Vietcong, and a fellow called Bill English, who was a Green Beret guy. They had a radio call from the aircraft that would have been attacked not by a Vietcong fighter or missiles, but a disc attacking the aeroplane. Anyway, we went down off radar. It was on radar, and I think we had on radar the disc. And they located it down for us, found the aeroplane, and it was gently laid in the jungle with no damage, no plough mark, which you'd expect for the aircraft as it's crashing through the trees. The only damage was on the belly of the aircraft. The thing on the top, the wings, engine pods were intact. It had been gently, a massive aircraft, lowered into the forest. The crew of 4 were found still trapped in the seats, but had been mutilated in the classic fashion. So somebody at high command ordered the aircraft to be set alight and burnt, including the bodies. So that was 1970. We're here now, folks. I'm relieved to know. Okay. Right, flash through these a bit. There's 3 images. The Brazilian case from 1998. Jaw out, strip here, eyes, he had his ears moved, and internal organs going into his brain. There's 2 little holes into his scalp, into the brain, taken. Sunken chest, hole there, muscle taken. Okay, next one. Hole in his belly, and you can see all these being removed, intestines, I imagine. Hole in the leg, and his penis, scrotum's gone. Penis still there, but bleeding. You think his prostate would be removed through the penis, that would be painful, wouldn't it? Okay, which one over? Anal core. These ropes and ties are what the police did to strap into the stretcher to bring him in for examination. Okay. This is the first page of the report from the 2 doctors who did the PM for the police. And they reckoned Tony Fremont looked at his pictures and reckoned he was alive. He's got vital signs and blue patches and blood collecting around the room, and he had a heart attack and died with extreme pain. That's what the reckoned in this report. So it's not very nice, is it? Okay. Now, this is A.J. Guevara from a Brazilian UFO magazine, standing for him and himself at the Holmford conference here in Today. He was given the trophy, of course, on Stanton was. And A.J. was the guy who brought that case to the UK to Graham Bursell and Tony Dodd. In the first instance, from somebody else who researched it. In articles in his UFO magazine, I suppose. but now he's gone back. They're saying it was done by rats and vultures.
Who said that?
AJ Geddes-Ward.
Oh, yeah.
I've had a bit of a dialogue with him about that, but there you go. Right.
David?
Yeah.
Does AJ accept that the same injuries on other animals are not rats and vultures?
He doesn't say much now. I gave him a couple of images you'll see in a minute. And at the hotel, and he made no comment. No problem. Okay.
What's that one they got back?
Right. Alan Godfrey, PC, ex-PC Alan Godfrey from Topperton, you might know. And of course, he got involved in a famous case in Tottenham with a fellow called Zygmunt Adamski, who was a Polish immigrant who went missing for a day or two, went out to buy some bread or potatoes. Was that
1980, yeah.
1980? Anyway, he's just written a book, Alan, published by Jenny Randall's bloody outfit. It's a shame, but it looks like a good book. I've got a copy lined up and signed. Next slide. So you will find in Alan Godfrey's book, it's entitled Who or What Were They? And he's certainly got a bit about the Adamski there. Who was the man? Why did he die? Alan was the first officer on scene of crime and noted he'd been undressed and then dressed but incorrectly. He had a jacket with a shirt on back to front. And he had these, with no trace of coal dust on him, he was up this pile of coal. To scramble up there was very difficult, very filthy. So he'd been placed in the boat. He had these strange marks on his neck like a oily substance, which they didn't know what it was. And then, before a post-mortem was carried out, the coroner still got an open verdict on him. His body was shipped back to Poland for disposal, so with no PM to so that's a human case again. Okay, thanks. The Dalby Forest in North Yorkshire. Victory Tony Dodd told me of several human cases there, up to 7 people found in the same field in the middle of the forest, naked, but no bodily hair whatsoever. Not just your hair or any sexual organs or your head, but your body hair and your arms, legs, just totally removed. So, in case it leaked the story, you put the story out, it was press to the press. Someone was dumping mannequin dummies in the field. So I said to Tony, what happens about the death certificate? What does the coroner say? What do the relatives say? Who want to view the body for the funeral? And he said, and he knows this, he knew this from police sources, he said, well, they're not told. Those 7 people are still on the missing list, so the relatives, no answers. They might even know that their body, that they were loved one, has been found. That's the extent of the cover-up. Okay. All right, the Brecon Beacons. Yeah. Tony actually said to me, he knew of a family of 4 where, off the road vehicle, they went missing, did a search, and after several days they found the vehicle with the seats sort of ripped out in a very peculiar fashion, and then a bit later on they found the 4 family, so the girl, boy and mum and dad, laid out in a row, where he has attempted to do the animal versions with the usual cuts. So that's 4, okay. And a picture of an area of you and Richard's covers this book. I met this fellow, we call him George. He was an ex-Special Forces guy who worked for NATO, and he went around, this is all run by the Americans and what I hasten to add, all around the world. He'd be flown into Australia, Germany, Scotland, and their job is to secure the site of a UFO brought down and any bodies, people being mutilated. And a young couple taken from their car at Telegraph here, and days later, the helicopter searches, they found the bodies appeared in the Telegraph reservoir. So Richard is trying to get pictures off him, but he's very worried because He's actually on sticks. He's not a well man. Some of his colleagues in the units have died since from radiation and other effects of being close to these facilities. So it's a big story, but it's difficult to bring it together. Okay. At the end of that. Oh yeah, Richard's video, I don't know if you've watched this, but UFOs and NATO and the human mutilation cover-up. So he's updated twice. Okay, right. Now we're in Argentina.
Oh, look at that one.
She's 17. This is Lysandra Hart's. What's her name? 23rd of June 2009. So it's not that long ago. This place in Batu, which goes something like that, is a few hundred kilometres south of Sao Paulo, where the night was. And she's got eyes falling out, teeth, or the jaw. She's got a cut here, taking eggs from the ovaries, I think. I would suggest. Okay, a couple of years ago. Andrew, thank you. Yeah.
Oh,
See how that, just note that bit there.
you saving the vegetable last
That was an
day.
arm. Okay, next one. This is a cut there. Okay. Yeah. Another one, this is a few pictures of this. 4 images in an unknown case. At first you think, oh, that's predation, but I've got a picture of that area in his hand. And back in. Okay, next one, Andrew. That's where they turned him over, pulled him out. I'm sure it's him, it might be a woman, but I think it's a bloke. Okay. And this is a close-up of that hole now. And that is a typical, down to the bone. Sealed edges, that shape. That's not done by predation, I suggest. Okay. Another one, this might be a result. But interestingly, near a reservoir, like the 1988 case. And this guy's been lying around a long time, you can see, but he's got all his knee, toes, tips taken off, some of his fingers, holding the leg there. Look how sunken his body is, there's probably nothing in there. Okay. Same chap. Hole there, thumb, top of the thumb's gone. Same there, possibly. Another hole is on there. Toes. Everything on his head and his eye, okay. There. So these are this chap got off the dark web, so these are not being, you're seeing these for the first time, I say. There's a better view of his thumb there. Okay. His head. It's obviously been quite grey hair, looks like he's not a young one there.
It's like a black man, isn't it? It's curly thing.
He's been around since he's been around a long time.
His
Deteriorated.
penis is there, but there's probably no testicle. Different view of the whole of his knee. Hole round as well. And there's a hole in the side of his chest. I think there's one more. Yeah. I think that's where the ear was. And view that hole there, and a massive hole in his side there.
If he could talk there. If he could still talk, tell us the story of that man.
Now, this one, I think he's in the Far East somewhere. I might be wrong, I just get the impression it's Far East. There's a big hole on top of his head. There, eyes are out. Okay, Andrew. And then he's got 3 holes in his chest. And I would suggest those are not gunshot wounds. And there's.
Was it too late to tell if the tongue had been taken as well?
I would suggest so, yeah.
The eyes are the one wrong.
You see it's there.
So when that happens, is the brain gone as well inside of it? When that happens, the eyes are gone, is the brain matter gone as well?
Well, probably. I mean, it looks like an empty cavity.
More skeletal.
But, you can see this sort of down and dip in the lip, the tip of the lip. Okay. Now there's this young man, I'm not sure whether it's Argentina or Brazil or Eastern European, but it looks like 20 something. You've got this characteristic dip of the lip here. He's got both eyes, he's got that ear, you can't see it's been taken. 2 holes in his arm. There was no pictures of the lower part of his body. I would willing to bet that his genital began in rectum story with one shot of his arm and holding his.
It's not unusual.
And those are the pictures I gave AJ in the hotel to look at, and he made no comment, but dropped them back in his room while I was in the corridor. And he went to a window, stepped over, got a door. And he never said anything to me. This is before he dropped the bombshell, but later at the Indian restaurant at the conference dinner, and the bar waiting to get some drinks, waiting for the food, and he said to me, Richard, yeah, this is another one, South America somewhere, I suggest. Okay.
So how common do we think this is within humans?
Well, it's the tip of an iceberg, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's covered up, we don't know, do we? We don't know.
David Paulides, is he? Does the 411 missing,
the missing people.
national parks of America, where all those 4, 2 months' time, and 411 people disappeared. So there we are. So that
People are missing them.
So I think that the cover up, I think the whole cover of the whole UFO business is because of the human aspects. And that, I mean, I don't know what your actions are, but it's not pleasant, is it? But it's not a nice thought to think this is happening to us with no power whatsoever to stop it happening. And I think this is why the authorities cover up and confuse people about the UFO business as a whole. That's
right, yeah.
So, okay. I think that's more pleasant slides like that, just to finish. Okay.
Put some kittens on or something.
Yeah, but they won't have any eyes.
Yeah, so considering, as I've been looking at for 20 years, we've not touched on missing animals and lost animals.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The abduction, it's seen in particular, okay, that's an animal there, obviously, that's very recent. And missing, this was a cartoon in the farming press. It's the math boss that mislaid 100,000 sheep. Last we found the culprits, I've added that. And they made a, Bo Peep, they made a mess up of sheep count, survey they were doing, census apparently. So the farming press made a joke. But really, there's, to me, a serious undertone with this, because a lot of sheep, cattle, sometimes just go missing with no trace of rustling, anything, no truck marks, just like being picked up from into the sky.
Yeah. Even with humans, do we know that are there, certain figures? We know there are sort of thousands of people go missing every year. Is it like collated data?
No,
it's not being publicised, all you need to do is just get in the news.
No, exactly.
There's too many. 80,000 people in this country, I think, every year. 80,000 people a year.
I know.
Lots of children.
I know loads of children go, didn't they? That was that Pizzagate, all that kind of stuff.
So since 1947, this is a fellow called Hugo Boss, I was in touch with the States, quite an artist, who's done a depiction of Kenneth Arnold's plane spotting the UFOs off the what's it mountain? Right, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was very good. So, I've not considered pilot, sightings, radar, all these other aspects with pretty convincing evidence from these sources to answer the total picture. I thought it was quite a very apt thing from his peers, otherwise. It is by doubting that we come to investigate, and by investigating we recognise the truth. Nothing's changed in it, really. So I thought it was a very apt thing, okay. And I thought I'd end up with a nice picture of the boss. So it's in Wiltshire, it was just over the fence from where I'm in Caravan Park.
Yeah, that's not, we like that, yeah.
And it was misty morning, and I shut out in the chamber. And I fiddled out with it.
Intact kittens, please. Have you got any intact kittens?
No.
No.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
You're a cat lover.
yeah.
Best I can do is a horse.
Okay, I'll settle for that, that's fine. We like that.
So at the end of my journey, I've come to a very firm conclusion that it's pretty positive that ETs of some sort, a number of them, doing this for whatever reason.
Something's doing it.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
From what we've seen here with humans as well, what's happening with
I had 3 extra slides in, just as a matter of interest, that Sir Francis Crick, who got his Nobel Prize for discovering DNA and the rest of it, and his colleagues. Fireless fires. In fact, I wonder if after George Fire, which major producer, I had a fireless fire. I wonder if he's died of very ill. It was a fireless fire. And he is saying, one of his colleagues as well, as a Japanese guy, was saying that it's pretty clear the DNA, we have DNA from extraterrestrials in us. And we need to read it really. It didn't read what to read. Well, it's a bit quick to reveals that the explanation is unlikely compared to DNA evolving its way, functioning like fully functioning jumbo jet being formed by random debris left behind by a hurricane. So he disputes the idea of natural selection and all that, the Darwin theory and all that, and he thinks that's what a lot of this junk so-called alien DNA, this is alien DNA. Some of it's causing the cancers. That's not deliberately done by him. That's the man. Well, DNA proved extraterrestrial alien. Very good. He was talking about how life was shipped to Earth in some sort of spaceship. He's going with that. He states life did not evolve first on Earth, or highly advanced civilizations became threatened, so they devised a way to pass on their existence. They genetically modified their DNA and sent it out from their planet on bacteria or meteorites for it to fly on another planet. It did, and that's why we're here. Our DNA was encoded with messages from that other civilization. They programmed the molecules so that when we reach a certain level of intelligence, we will be able to access their information, and they could therefore teach us about ourselves and how to progress. It's possible aliens travel from another planet to Earth. For instance, the largest human chromosome number 1, is approximately 220 million base pairs long. Mathematically, human DNA is too complicated to be an accident. So he dismisses the evolution ideas. So for people like that to come out with that, and that's why George Fire put that report information on his website. Because someone like his standing to come up with that, I think that's pretty good. So I'm sorry, I've gone on quite long.
Is that the end?
That is definitely the end.
Right, okay. Thank you very much. It's been a very mammoth presentation there by David, so we'd like to say
I'm sorry.
thank you very, very much indeed for David and for Andrew for doing the slides for him, and for David and Andrew for coming all the way down.
Picking me up from Leamington Bus
Picking
Station.
on from the station as well. So we'd like to show our appreciation by dipping our hands in our pockets and giving David and Andrew, bringing all your £5 up to the table each to help pay for their travel costs. So a big round of applause once again.